Good morning. Today we are going to continue talking about the infectious diseases. Also, we can say contagious diseases because they can pass from a patient to another or from person to another. The first pathogen we are going to talk about is the virus or viruses. Viruses, as what we learned before, are tiny particles. We don't say here organisms because we know that viruses are not organisms, not living things. Why not living things? We said because they don't have all the conditions that should exist in a cell to be a living cell. They don't get the energy by themselves, or they don't get the nutrients by themselves. They don't have all the components of the cell, beside the very important also difference that they don't maintain homeostasis, plus they don't reproduce by themselves. They can what how so you will ask how can the virus reproduce in our bodies if it enters? Yes, it will replicate. Here we don't say reproduce, we say replicate. It means it will make copies of itself. How? Inside a living cell. Once it can enter to a specific living cell, it can occupy this and invade this cell, and it will predominate over this cell. يعني it will make it like its own factory. So or a copy machine, just it will use it as a copy machine. It will use the DNA of this cell to make more copies of it. If you remember, the last year you studied something like that, which was the Lytic cycle. Here we can see that this bacteriophage, a type of virus that invade the bacteria. This is a bacterium, يعني a bacteria cell. As you see, this virus is specific for bacteria. It doesn't invade any other living cell. It is specific for bacteria. It can invade bacteria. So this will be very dangerous. This will be very dangerous. It can invade the bacteria to make more viruses. Then this virus can develop itself inside the bacteria. It can, as what you learned the last year also, it can combine its genetic material with the genetic material of the bacteria. Then it can develop the bacteria itself. So what will happen here? Once this virus can enters by itself, or it can inject its genetic material only inside the bacteria cell, then the genetic material of the bacteria, the DNA of the bacteria, will follow the instructions of the genetic material of the virus. Then it will make the parts of many viruses. Then these parts will assemble together, يعني they will combine together to make many viruses. Once they are ready, they will destroy the bacteria cell to leave it and to look for new cells to do the same cycle again and again and again. Something similar happens inside our bodies. If a virus that targets our cells, okay, human cells, can enter to our bodies. Also, even inside our cells, every virus has a specific target cell inside our bodies. Some viruses target cells are our respiratory system cells. Some other viruses, they go to our blood, la samah Allah, or to our, for example, urinary system, any. So every virus also is, some viruses also, they go to the epithelial tissues, so they can invade our skin. There are some viral infections in the skin also, like the herpes. So every virus has a specific kind of cell. At the same time, also organisms, a specific organism. So some viruses invade bacteria, some viruses invade plants, some viruses invade animals, special animals, birds or cows or pigs or bats. But rarely it happens that the virus can be transferred or transmitted from an animal to human. And that's what happened this time, unfortunately, when the virus of corona can transmit from the bat to the human in China. Then it spread because the world is open and everything can spread very quickly. That's what happened. Inshallah, we will finish from this problem. Inshallah, we hope so. Now, because this book was written before coronavirus, we will not see that coronavirus is written in it, but alhamdulillah, we can add it. Every one of us now knows everything about coronavirus more than any other example. They wrote it here in the book, but it's okay. Here they said that the viruses are tiny particles that is made of genetic material, DNA or RNA. DNA or RNA and a protein, that's it. So it can be only the genetic material, DNA or RNA, included inside a protein covering. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing else at all. It depends on a living thing, on living things, a host of the living thing to reproduce. Influenza, common cold are viruses that can be passed by contact and touching or by the air. There is a mistake here. I will correct it. Actually, I found also some grammar mistakes. I will correct, then I will resend this PowerPoint. It's okay. So by the contact or touching or by coughing, sneezing. So touching or through the air. And HIV virus, which is a type of virus that can be passed by body fluids. What do they mean by body fluids? Body fluids, the most important fluid is the blood. So HIV virus is the virus that is responsible for causing the AIDS. What is AIDS? It is the acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Okay? The virus is called HIV. The AIDS, the acquired immune deficiency syndrome that we talked about in the last lesson, can be passed from transmitting the blood. يعني someone has an accident and he needs blood, they transmit to this patient blood from another person, and this person has AIDS, so the AIDS will be passed to the new patient. This is a very big problem. That's why no one can يعني give or donate with the blood without being checked and without making many tests to be sure that his blood doesn't have some viruses such as the AIDS and virus C that also that can invade the liver and has very big problem. Okay, not only by transmitting the blood, also لا سمح الله if someone use some equipments and he has a cut or a wound in his hand, just by touching these equipments, if they are not steriled, okay, or not cleaned very well, the viruses can pass inside the blood. Okay, also there is another way for transmitting such diseases, that is the sexual relationship. This is about the viruses. Then the bacteria. As what we studied many times, not all bacteria are harmful. Some bacteria are very beneficial. Very beneficial, يعني we need them. Like the bacteria that we talk about in the large intestine. If you remember, they help us to digest some types of foods and to make vitamins that we need. Okay, also some other types of bacteria are very important for making sometimes of some types of food like the yogurt. Okay, it needs bacteria to be made, and many other benefits from some bacteria. At the same time, some types of bacteria are very, very harmful, and they can cause very serious diseases, such as the tuberculosis. Here they mention the tuberculosis. What is tuberculosis? It is an infection, a bacterial infection that affects the lungs. In this disease, the patient will cough with blood, finally, and mostly it causes death. In Arabic, السل. But now, no more tuberculosis in the world. People are not suffering from it anymore. Why? This is because of the vaccination. Alhamdulillah, they could have very effective vaccination, and it is one of the vaccines that are given to the newborn, and it is very effective, alhamdulillah. So no more suffering from the tuberculosis. Also, there is the strep throat, diarrheal illnesses. Sometimes some diarrhea is caused by bacteria. Some sinus infections also can be caused by bacteria. But how can I know that I have a bacterial infection, not a viral infection, if I have something in my throat or something in my respiratory system? How can I recognize it? Actually, mostly if it was only influenza or flu that is caused by a virus, it will not cause fever. But bacteria causes fever. So having fever, this is the first sign of having a bacterial infection. Some viruses cause fever, such as the corona. It causes, but the common flu and the influenza, they don't cause. What else? Also, if you have discharge, يعني if you cough with discharge, the color of the discharge will start as yellow color, then it will change to green color. This is a very obvious sign that this is a bacterial infection. And the very, very clear and true sign is the investigation. يعني if you go to the lab and they take from your urine or from your blood, sometimes depend on the signs that you have, and they could get a result. This will be the very, very clear sign that you have a bacterial infection, not a viral infection. Why we need to be sure, we will see at the next part of the lesson when we will talk about the antibiotics, that you have to be sure 100% that you have a bacterial infection before starting an antibiotic, because it will be very, very big mistake. We will say why, and you will know why now the health administration, the health ministry, why they they set a law that it is not allowed to sell antibiotics in the pharmacies without prescriptions. Why? We will know why, inshallah. Next, here we are going to talk about the fungal infection and about the parasites. Now, fungal infections are infections that are caused by fungi. Okay, mostly, as what we learned, the fungi are useful. Why? Because they are decomposers that help in recycling materials in the world. So, and what we know also, the making the bread depend on the yeast, which is fungi. Penicillin, an antibiotic, comes from the mold of the bread. Most of fungi are useful. Some of them are used in as food, like mushroom, but also there are some fungi that cause some infections, such as this type of fungi that cause the athlete foot and the ringworm. They are common skin infections caused by a fungi called tinea. Now, not only for the skin, also some fungi or some fungal infections can take place in the urine, in the reproductive organs, sometimes in the digestive system, and it can be, but the most common are some infections on the skin. Like here, I will show you these pictures. I didn't add them to the PowerPoint because I know you will be bothered from them. Let's see. This is the ringworm that is caused by a fungi. It's called ringworm not because it's caused by a worm, but because of its shape. They gave it this name, so don't be confused. It is caused by fungi. Okay, it can be treated. Any infection, it can be caused maybe with the clothes. Some fungi pass to the skin, and it can happen. It can be treated by creams that have anti-fungal creams. Okay, the other type is the athlete foot. This picture is very bad, so it's enough. the athlete foot from its name. It starts between the toes because of staying in the closed shoes for long time during the day, and the sweat that stay between the toes for long time. This what cause the athlete foot. So not to stay long time in the shoes, wearing the shoes and the socks. This is very important. To wash the legs, the feet directly and dry them after going home. This is also very, very important. This was about the fungi. Now let's go to the parasites. A parasite is an organism, any organism that feeds on another organism. Yani it lives inside another organism and it occupies this organism and makes it as its shelter. It will take from this organism all its needs. Okay, there are many examples, such as some protists, and some worms. Some protists, such as the amoeba, dysentery. The amoeba, it causes a mild illness, a mild disease. يعني you feel that you have diarrhea and some crumbles in your abdomen. If you are treated with flagyl, that means you had amoeba. Okay, most of us we have it. It comes because of contaminated food, some fruits that are not washed very well, and subhanallah, it can be passed anyway. Another example of protist is the plasmodium. Plasmodium is a kind of a protist that causes malaria. This is very severe disease. Alhamdulillah, يعني it is not common now, alhamdulillah, because يعني it can be transmitted by a type of mosquito. Okay, in some places it can spread in this plasmodium. If it enters to the body, it causes in the first 24 hours fever and chills and fatigue in the body. If it is not treated during the first 24 hours, it can develop to very severe disease. The malaria becomes very, very severe and it can cause death. Okay, the next pathogen as a parasite here is the worms. Worms also can يعني cause some diseases, mild diseases, alhamdulillah, but they like the here they mention many in the book. I remember, yes, the ascaris. The ascaris is a type of round worm. Ascaris. No need to memorize all the long names. The ascaris can be transmitted or can be passed if you eat unwashed fruit or vegetables. That's why we have to wash the fruit and the vegetables very, very well and for a long time, not just pass them quickly under the water. No. You have to wash them very well. And it's better to use something like some vinegar inside the water than wash the vegetables, especially if you are washing vegetables. But for the fruit, يعني for longer time under the water, if you use some soap, it's okay. This worm can enter inside the intestine and depend on the food. Some signs can lead to discover that there are worms inside the intestine, such as the spasm in the abdomen and difficulty in digesting, and you will feel that there is something not normal inside your abdomen. Another type of worm also, it's not mentioned in the book, but it's nice to mention it. A type of worm that is called tapeworm exists in the meat of the beef, cow meat, or the pork, the pig meat. Alhamdulillah, we don't eat this, but we eat the beef, we eat the cow's meat. If it is uncooked well, the worm can stay alive and it can enter inside our digestive system, and it lives in the intestine. That's why it's not good at all to eat uncooked meat. That's it. This is everything for today. Tomorrow we'll continue.